Thank you, musicians. Thank you, friends. With Esther, we have an entire ecosystem in one person. She's just off an aeroplane. Is it from Moscow, the latest trip?
Right.
So Esther, as well as being an astronaut who goes into space and...
We'll go, not yet.
Well,
just to do your fact checking.
When you're training to go into space, you're also sitting on the boards of 23andMe and WPP and Yandex and Newspaper Direct and Meetup and a whole bunch of other things. And you're investing incredibly widely, from LinkedIn and Facebook and Evernote to Russian travel companies to quantified self companies.
Yeah.
So I've got to distill in about 15 minutes all the trends you're seeing, all the knowledge that you're picking up. So let's start with, based on the companies you're talking to, based on the traveling, what at the moment is most exciting you in the startup world, and where are the big opportunities?
Yeah. Well, the big opportunities that I see, and they're not necessarily everybody's, and other people might have other ones, but I'm looking at health, data collection, evidence-based health stuff, and then when you've got the evidence, what do you do with it? And that is mostly trying to motivate people to stay healthy, because it's a lot cheaper to keep people healthy than it is to treat them when they're sick. Unfortunately, most people think too short term to think that way. So if there's a billionaire here, what I really want to do is create a bond, a sort of insurance deal where you get paid off 10 years later based on a population being healthier than they would have been otherwise. Because the amount you save by eating right and helping people to be healthy now, 10 years down the road, they're still healthy, they're still going to work, they're earning salaries instead of being sick in hospital, costing a lot of money. So that's one. Another sort of similar, human capital. It's not job boards, it's helping people to manage their own careers, training, that sort of thing. And then, of course, there's space travel, space mining, that whole area I really love.
We have to talk about space mining in a minute, but
Yeah.
you were very early on the quantified self trend. We're both wearing our Nike Fuel bands. I see you
Right.
have a Basis
So
watch as well.
where are you?
We're going to compare Nike Fuel points today.
For the camera.
This is, I'm 1626, she's probably done 10,000.
No,
But
1867 plus
so you
50
win.
minutes
She's
in the
very
pool.
competitive. But how do you take this from a social trend
Yeah.
into something with a business opportunity?
Well, these things, I mean, the great thing about health now, before there was no real health market. There was the market for health care, the remedial market. There was the market for bad health, which is the food, some of the food out there. I'm pleased the lunch was really healthy, but there's also crisps and chocolate, and then there will be alcohol later, I trust. Cigarettes, that's the market for bad health. Now, these devices, the software that creates the game mechanics, the social networking, that is actually a market. You can sell this stuff. You sell it to the early adopters like us, then you start selling it to the employers who aren't. Employers have that long-term view of wanting you to be healthy. They're not simply trying to avoid health care costs. They're actually trying to keep you in good shape. They want you to be motivated and happy. So they're willing to invest in this kind of thing without necessarily having the specific evidence that an insurance company might want. If you give your employees fruit, you have a coffee machine, you have a nice break room, why not give them some of this stuff and make them both be healthier and also feel that you care about them, feel that you love them?
So is the opportunity in gamifying software, or is it in physical devices?
Both. Because the physical devices collect the data that show you the impact of your behavior, or they show you how many steps you've walked, or the holy grail of this is a non-invasive blood analysis tool, which is, I think, going to show up in a few years.
So I was at Mobile World Congress on Monday,
Right.
and I saw, I think it's called the Life Watch, which in the case of the smartphone, not the light, well, it was a phone, not a watch, sorry.
Yeah.
In the case, it had sensors that detected
Yeah.
not just your heartbeat, but it detected your blood sugar level.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And that's most important for diabetics, but even for everybody else, understanding what happens to your blood sugar, that's the first step towards managing it. Seeing, oh my God, when I eat this disgusting little sweet pastry thing, look what happens to my blood sugar. First it goes up, then it goes down.
So you're carrying a couple of devices.
Yeah.
Explain this one. It's a case around your iPhone.
Yeah, so this one measures my heartbeat.
What's it called?
It's a LiveCore. It's a LiveCore vet version because I'm not a doctor, so I'm listed as a miniature pony here.
Someday you'll be in a
Yeah,
burger, I'm
anyway,
sure.
here we go.
And this has sensors at the back, and it's
Yeah.
FDA approved.
It's FDA approved for doctors to use it on people.
So it has medical level
Medical validity.
charts.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you can see it.
But I mean, this is like your genome. Most people wouldn't understand it, and what you want is software that enables you to make sense of it.
And you're also
And-
wearing a Basis watch,
Yes.
which was a sellout when it launched
a
just before
little
Christmas.
asterisk. I'm an investor. So,
You're an investor in most things.
yeah. Well,
Tell us what the watch does.
so it does it persistently, whereas most things that measure your pulse do it only sort of on demand. So it monitors your pulse, your skin temperature, the amount of perspiration, which is an indication of stress or excitement. Of course, it also has an accelerometer to look at your steps, and it creates a huge amount of data. I would say all these things get more interesting when you can match them one to the other. So this plus my sleep monitor, and watching how things change when I travel. You can sort of see all these things shift as my circadian rhythms shift. Is really interesting.
And you're also involved with and an investor in 23andMe, which is the main to-consumer
Genetics
genome
company.
testing company. They recently put the price down. I think it's $99 now to send
Right.
off this plastic tube, and you spit in it, and then you get the pages with your risk factor for hundreds of
Yeah.
medical conditions.
Explained clearly, which is the
So-
exciting bit.
Where does this go in maybe 5 years? How does all this
Yeah.
knowledge and the diminishing price of revealing an individual's genome and their medical risk factors,
Right.
where does this take us?
Well, you're doing the same thing in the UK. You're just embarking on a huge genome study. And Mike Lynch, who was talking to you this morning about autonomy, is actually involved in that. And it's interesting because genes are kind of like text.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, there's a lot of meaning in there if you can analyze it properly. So 5 years from now, you're probably not going to take any serious medicine without knowing what your genome is and whether that medicine is likely to work on you or not. So we're moving in the medical world of healthcare, not just health, from a world where you tried a drug and you just had people take it and you hoped it would work, to a drug is always prescribed to an individual person. And they're going to have to, I mean, right now, I would get the same dose of a drug as some 200-pound guy, which is crazy. So medical treatments are going to be much more personalized. You know, they personalize my advertising. Why can't they personalize my medicine?
Because regulators demand that
Didn't
the
get that.
pharmaceutical
Yeah.
companies have very expensive human trials.
Right, but this is going to change because most drugs are not 80% effective. They're 100% effective for 30% of the people, sort of effective maybe for another 50, and probably toxic for 20%. But if you know their genetics, and also if you have much better blood analyses, drugs are going to be much better, but for much smaller populations, and that's going to dramatically change
But
the economics.
biotech has historically been a very effective way of losing quite a lot of money quickly.
Yeah.
Do you see a startup ecosystem growing up around these new medical opportunities?
Startups I mean, yes, I see a huge marketplace emerging. It's not the one I'm in. You need to be, because what I'm doing is mostly electronic and drugs are wet, if you like. And yes, you need to do human tests, but once you know people's genetics and you understand how the genes work rather than simply the correlations. So it's more than, it's like Google will give you a ranking of things by how close they are to your search term, but it doesn't understand anything. We're kind of at that level in genetics right now. We see these things are related. Oh, this genome, this condition. But what we need to understand is the grammar, if you like, of genes, how they interact, and then how they produce conditions. And then we'll be much better equipped to fix the conditions.
So another area, as you mentioned, you're involved with is in space, whether it's X-Core offering for $100,000, I think it's the chance to go up into suborbital space. You talked about
and float weightless.
You talked about space mining. Does this have any long-term benefit to the global population beyond a few rich people having a quick tour of space?
It's sort of like the $100,000 genome. It's the first step. And no, we're not going to be sending people into space for 200 pounds. But we are going to, number one, ultimately develop a backup planet, which will be handy because we are messing up the one we've got. We will be able to mine asteroids for all kinds of rare minerals and make them less rare. We are going to be able to do interesting things with energy, probably various kinds of manufacturing, including of drugs that works much better in zero gravity, where crystals they become much purer. And so there's an awful lot. I mean, it's like, gee, why should Columbus go to America? Don't we have everything we need here in Europe? And no, they discovered there were some interesting things in America. And it also, like this entire industry, doing new stuff creates new opportunities.
So Elon Musk, even today, is sending one of his SpaceX rockets up in the air. Is it the startup entrepreneur who doesn't care about the risk, who takes over from what used to be the government and the defense industry in creating the new opportunities?
Yes and no. I mean, we still need the government to do Mars. We still need government-funded research of all kinds, the research that led to the internet, a lot of medical research. I don't think, they just have different timescales. Unfortunately, right now, most governments are very short-sighted too, and the first thing they should be doing, even before Mars, is investing more in education and in nutritional education and sort of basic health things. I really don't want to lose the opportunity just to talk about sender pays email, though.
So Esther has many
and it's
interesting bees in her bonnets. One of them is she has, I think, 3,000 emails in your inbox at the moment.
Yeah.
So how do you solve this problem that's going to affect us all?
Yeah.
Esther.
So call it email pollution. And we've moved from a world where people are supposed to clean up pollution at the end to one where we try and fix it at the beginning, which means people should start paying to send email. I think the best way to do that is to have a recipient able to set a charge. You don't have to. You can forgive the charge. But make the sender think, is this really a useful email? Does the person really want to get it? Am I likely to get a response? And to put money behind that.
What sort of price per email?
It will vary. I could charge 200 pounds to an ex-boyfriend, 30 pounds to an entrepreneur. My family can send me email for free. I can reverse the charges, so somebody can take the risk that I will answer and reverse the charges because I wanted their email. I mean, you can have white lists. The reality is companies do this anyway. Have you ever gone to a website and tried to get help? You have to spend 10 minutes of your time to send them an email. And I'd rather just charge you money than 10 minutes of your
Mark
time.
Zuckerberg's trying this on Facebook, so if you don't know somebody on the network, you can pay money to access them.
Right, or LinkedIn, similarly.
Hands up here, anybody who'd be happy to pay to email not just Esther, but anybody you want. Let's see how big this business opportunity is.
Yeah, well, whether or
It's
not
looking like a niche opportunity, Esther.
Whether or not they're happy, I want somebody to give me a tool that lets me charge. It's not going to be necessarily everybody to start, but what I want, I'm too poor to afford an assistant. So, I want you to share the cost of me managing my email. And if you share that cost, I'll get fewer emails. So if you do pay the 10 pounds, I'm more likely to answer because I won't have 3,000 in my inbox.
Well, if you want to read the full argument, it's in the Infomilo publication that's around the summit.
Right.
I just want to ask you...
And right now, if you want to argue with me about it, you can still send me a free email because I don't have the service yet.
And as I've got one more question, and I don't yet have to pay to ask it. You're traveling a lot in Russia.
Mm-hmm.
You're investing in Russia. Most of us probably don't spend that much time navigating the bureaucratic and the entrepreneurial ecosystems there. What should we be aware of, and where are the big opportunities in Russia? And where should we be both investing but also using the marketplace that's growing very quickly?
Well, so I wouldn't send anybody to Russia who didn't want to go know what they're doing. I mean, the same with any field. The world is not a place full of strategic opportunities for everybody. The world is full of people who are uniquely qualified to do a few things. I happen to speak Russian. I happen to be crazy in love with the country for whatever reason. So, I mean, I love it, and if you want to go to Russia, I'll tell you how. But I don't think there are these big opportunities for everybody. I think there are people with special skills. In general, yeah, there's a lot of really great startups and smart people in Russia. There's huge opportunities in making people healthy. But I think you really need to understand a market and be passionate about it to go into it. So it's kind of like email. You have to look at the beginning of things, not at the sender side or not at Russia as a whole. That said, I think the Russian consumer internet, where people can't be bribed to use your service, is the biggest opportunity in Russia.
Okay, last question, and I want your pulse in real time for
to
this
see
one.
whether it reacts. Okay, it's at 58 now.
So of all the hundreds of investments, which has been your biggest disaster?
Oh, okay. And my pulse went to 79. That's amazing. Airship Ventures, which folded last year, sadly, RIP. It was the Zeppelin that flew around California, and we just couldn't make it work. And I put in a lot more money than I should have, so that I'm now, quote, between exits. But that was it.
What was the lesson? What lesson did you learn?
Oh, don't fall in love. But you know, the biggest lesson is make sure you don't go into debt. So I may have lost money, but I'm not in debt because of it. And the other lesson is it always helps you to remember that most times, you know, yes, you try to be smart, you try to be hardworking, but there's an awful lot of luck involved in this, both good and bad luck, and never think you deserve everything you get, whether it's good or bad.
So on medical grounds, I think we should let Esthers Pulse return to normal. Please, can we thank Esther Dyson?
Thank you.